Hey Excel Geeks, I'm Jack, and I'm back to look at OA Robot, the new micro automation launcher for Excel. We're joined by Erik Oehm, founder of Oehm Automation and creator of OA Robot. We're releasing this video in conjunction with the public beta. Check the links below for info to sign up when OA Robot goes public. Can you tell us a bit about OA Robot and what inspired you to develop it?
Sure. Thank you, Jack, for having me. Basically, OA Robot started because I suck at keyboard shortcuts. I'm a little bit dyslexic, and I always see people like Dearman Early and those guys are so incredibly fast in Excel. And my ability to remember short keyboard shortcuts was just not there. So this started as a, a little tool for myself so that I can have my own way of being fast in Excel. And it kind of took on a life of its own over time. And it started off as being sending keystrokes. Uh, then it was like, let's add VBA macros. And then it was I was kind of like, oh, well, I love Power Query, so why don't we make it do Power Queries? And we kept adding more and more things until it really turned out to be a very powerful tool.
I love that. The appeal for me has always been kind of from the neurodivergent side. My brain doesn't always work the same way as everyone else's does, and it is literally I've absolutely loved playing around with it just because it's given me a bit of a chance for my brain to do what it's thinking instead of what I've trained it to do. So
Yeah,
thank
the
you for that.
when you use the ribbon shortcuts, the letters that you have to press make zero sense at all. I know all of the basic ones, but um, I can't open the name manager without opening up robot and doing NM for name manager and hitting enter.
That makes a lot more sense than Alt IND. Great. Thank you. All right, Erik, what problem or gap in the market does OA Robot address?
Hmm. Gap in the market. Well, that would imply that I had this like some kind of a master plan of filling a gap. The truth of the matter is that I created this as my own passion project, and it's really my kind of dream tool for myself in Excel. And I imagined that it'd be used by my team. I run a consulting group for hedge funds where we do custom automations. So it's a great tool for my people, and then for our clients to use, but it didn't start as something that I was thinking about a gap in the market. Once I started showing it to people, they were like, oh man, you really have to make this available to the world. And so here we are.
Completely agree. Everyone that I've spoken to, once they've seen it, they've been almost evangelical about sharing how awesome OA Robot is. I remember the first time I heard about it was Jim at Early going, "You have to watch this video."
Thank you. That just made the hair go up on my arm. Look at that. It's great. I mean, I really want it to be used by people. I'm very just so excited to be able to bring it to the world.
Great. You describe OA Robot as a micro automation launcher. How would you define micro automations, and how does it differ from traditional Excel automation?
Okay, micro automations. I kind of coined this term, made it up, and made it official. Made it into a real thing. When I went through the process of creating this tool, it wasn't about micro automations to begin with. I kind of discovered micro automations. And what I call micro automations is a discovery based on my love for Excel and what makes Excel great. If you think about Excel, it is this incredible toolkit of thousands of features,
Yeah.
and they're all really small. Like you can pick, sort something or make something bold or do this. What makes Excel like the greatest application in the entire world is that it is this amazing tool set of micro automations.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, regardless of how many features Microsoft Excel has, you're constantly going, man, I wish Excel had this feature. Oh, I wish Excel had that feature. It has like 500 functions, and we're always like, oh, they need to add this function. They need to add that function. And so when I started building OA Robot, I realized that what I was building was a micro automation launcher, not only so you can launch micro automations that come in the box in Excel, but also so that you can run your own private micro automations like VBA macros. I've been a VBA programmer for 28 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So to me, my automations have always been like VBA over time. But in this project, I realized that now with lambdas, formulas are automations. They have inputs, they have outputs like a function, and
Yeah.
you can apply them like a macro. So Power Query, DAX, all of these different things, PY, Python, and Excel functions, all of these things are essentially micro automations. And now, in the days, in current times, with things like ChatGPT and Claude, you can create micro automations so much easier. Those are the types of things that AI is super good at helping you create. So that's what I would call micro automations.
I love the passion behind just how wonderful Excel is as a tool and how you're just taking it to the next level. Could you give us a quick overview of how the add-in works and what sort of micro automations it comes with?
Sure. So OA Robot is an XLL, so it's an add-in for Excel. It basically is what we call has a command palette. So you are searching for commands to run, which are triggering micro automations. One of the things that I think is important to understand about OA Robot is it doesn't actually come with any commands. It
Yeah.
comes empty. And the commands that show up in it are ones that either we've created and provided for you, or you've created, or other people in the community have created and shared.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you think about VBA in Excel, right? VBA is just the VBA window. It doesn't. There's no
It's just
macros.
blank
You get
until you start
Excel.
sticking stuff in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Excel's just like, comes with VBA, and you're like, there's no macros in here. Well, what good is VBA? You don't discover what VBA, like the VBA editor, is good for until somebody gives you some macros and you run them and you're like, whoa, that was really cool. Or you like record a macro and play it back and you're like, whoa, now I don't have to do that manually anymore.
Oh my god, the days
And
of recording them.
and now it's like, with robot, you're imagining all of these things, and you're not limited to just the VBA window. You have formulas and power queries and all kinds of other stuff that you can add in and create your own custom features in Excel.
Yeah.
Or, if you're not a programmer and you don't want to ever create one yourself, you go out and you find other people who have already created really cool automations, and you just register their commands into your robot, and then you have all of these new features. So that's kind of how I see the main idea. We do have a lot of really cool robot commands that we're going to be slowly leaking out to people.
Yeah.
So our website, our splash screen says the robots are coming, and
It's right
the
in the middle here. Yeah.
the tease of the robots are coming is not OA Robot itself, because OA Robot doesn't come with any commands per se. It's really the command collections
Yeah.
that are coming, and we'll be releasing them out little by little. And the first ones that people are probably going to play around with is Lambda Robot and Formula Robot,
Yeah.
which focus on doing cool things with lambdas. And the Formula Robot has some amazing features for international users. So you can convert your formulas to your local language back and forth and it makes using a robot with international languages really seamless.
What users do you see benefiting most from using OA Robot? Is it designed more for beginners or more advanced users?
Basically, we have two types of users. We have users and we have what we call robot engineers. So, robot engineers are the ones who dream up what the commands should be, and they turn their micro automations, whether it's Lambda formulas or VBA macros or their Power Queries or whatever it is, into these reusable commands that they can share with other people, the users.
Yeah.
And for the users, they don't have to know what is going on behind the scenes. So when they run a robot command, it might be applying a Lambda, it might be applying a VBA macro, it might be doing some DAX, it could be doing whatever, and magically something happens on their screen and they don't even care. So I think of it as two different user groups for the most part. My clientele are hedge funds, and we create all kinds of really magical things for hedge funds that they just run a robot command and they don't care how it happens. They're just very happy that it does.
How easy is it to get started using OA Robot? Is there a learning curve or is it intuitive enough for immediate use?
It's supposed to be easy to use. It's very easy to install, and once you get your hands on a command collection with some robot commands in it, they're easy to run. Uh, you kind of have to think of OA Robot as being an onion of functionality that you're peeling. So we've made it very easy to turn a Lambda into a robot command. We've made it very easy to create a VBA, take a VBA macro and turn it into a robot command. But there's a huge amount of functionality in robot to do fancy stuff. We've been using it at client sites for over 2 years, and we keep adding more features as we need them. So there's a huge amount of power, and I'm going to be going over a lot of those features over time and exposing them to people. So it's easy to use, and it takes some work to master.
Which, I mean, technically is what can be said for Excel.
Yeah, I mean, think about Power Query. Power Query is like, so what's so great about Power Query to me is that anybody can go in there and start clicking on the toolbar, and it's basically writing M code behind the scenes. They have no idea that it's writing M code.
Yeah.
And they create something with automatic step names, so they don't have to they don't have to name anything. They don't even know what's going on, and it shows up on your sheet.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great design. But it's like peeling an onion, right? Because, to get one step further into it, you notice, oh, there's this little formula bar up there. What's that one liner, of code? Oh, I can actually tweak that and I can write stuff in there. People don't realize they're writing one line of M code, right? And then after you kind of realize that you can do that, then you end up realizing there's this advanced editor, and you open up that, and at first you're like, oh, I'm just going to close that.
That's like
I'm not going in there ever again. But then when you want to start doing cool things, then you start to go in there and you're like, holy cow, like I can do all these amazing things in there that you can't do through the UI.
Yeah.
So you have to think of OA Robot like that. It's like, it's easy to do basic things, and there's a lot of power and cool things that you can do if you take the time to be an expert at it.
Yeah. How does OA Robot integrate into everyday workflows?
How many times have you written some big, huge, complex VBA solution for somebody that saves them like hours of work? Their day just basically fills up with more crap work. And then the problem with that is that because that's doing like 5-10 different steps and it's doing a bunch of fancy stuff, if any one thing in that chain goes wrong, your macro doesn't work, Jack gets a phone call, data changes, file format, if you're integrating with vendors. So one of the best things about micro automations is breaking things into smaller parts. So rather than it taking a minute and a half, it might take you 5 minutes because you're actually doing the steps of what the process is.
Yeah.
And you are remembering what it is that is actually happening. You still understand the business process because you're doing the steps. You're just doing them in micro automations that are way more efficient.
Mm.
And the beauty of that is, let's say that your vendor adds an extra column and something changes and it breaks one of those micro automations. If you have, 6 micro automations that you're getting your job done with, and the fourth one dies, you can run your other micro automations
Yeah.
and just do that one step manually and then get to the finish line. So it really gives you a lot more flexibility in that way. In
Yeah.
addition to that, because you broke it up into individual parts, maybe that first micro automation or that last one is actually usable for other purposes outside of the bigger process. It becomes a building block of just getting your work done at your
I can
desk.
see that. Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is, instead of solving one, 2-hour process and getting it down to a minute and a half, you create these tools that end up getting used throughout the week in different places. And then once you discover that these micro automations are possible, your brain will literally explode and you'll be like, oh my God, I need a micro automation to do this. I need a micro automation to do this. I need a micro automation to do this. So it really makes work fun, and it doesn't create a situation where you don't understand your process anymore
That
because
is
it's
a lot of it. It suddenly becomes a big black box with a button.
people leave and then the next person comes,
Yeah.
all they know is to push the button.
I leave there 6 months
And
down the
then,
line, something goes wrong, and that no one's about that knows how to fix it or could be bothered going to take it apart.
and for people like us that automate things for people, we get a call 2 years later and they expect us to know 100% of like what that automation did that we took like 3 months to understand and build. It really makes it easier for us to support our systems, because if something goes wrong, okay, well, which step is going wrong? And now all of a sudden it's a much narrower thing that you need to fix.
And it also, apart from kind of taking it out of the black box, it keeps the user in what the process is, but then they can also see if they've messed something up at an earlier step. At that intermediate step, something's looking really weird. They can go, hang on a second, that shouldn't be there.
The other thing is that when you create one big automation, you typically you stay in the one stack. Like if you're creating something in VBA, you just make it a bigger, longer VBA. By using micro automations, you can mix and match different technologies. So you can have one micro automation that's a Power Query, one other one that is running some VBA, which is really great for like formatting and doing stuff that's tightly integrated with Excel.
Yeah.
And then you can have another one that is, based on a Lambda. You always want to use the right tool for the job.
So this is one I've really been looking forward to asking you, and you've hit on it in a few of the questions so far. But what Excel features are compatible with OA Robot? Are we looking at formulas, dynamic arrays, VBA, Python, Power Query, pivot tables? What can we use it with?
I think this would probably be a good time to show my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, let's switch over, and we're live.
So at this point, nobody's seen the robot dialogue. So before I go into answering your question, I'm just going to give a really quick look-see here at what we have. So first of all, you're going to look at this and probably think, okay, that's definitely not a VBA add-in, and it's not. This is written in C# using the Excel DNA framework. It's an XLL, so it's a COM add-in. And it's a very unique design. It's been evolving over time. I call it designed for work, but optimized for play. And that's because if it was just used for work, I probably wouldn't have put nearly as much time into making it super fast and keyboard driven and stuff like that. So you can completely use this with just your keyboard. The interface, as what you can see here, we call this list in the middle. These are all robot commands that I can run at any time. Now, my list is going to be different from your list because you'll have different command collections registered with your robot. But I literally have thousands, well, over 1,000, let's say. It's probably not in the thousands, but it's over 1,000 commands in my robot. The symbols off to the left, you can click on them to do different things. And I'm not going to go into that right now. But any of these buttons that you can click, you can also just type the character. So you do not need to type those characters. You do not have to click them. You can type them. The plus key is where you can add a new command, or you can add collections of commands, or you can add other things. What we're going to look at right now is adding a command because that will show us the list of all of the different command types that are available. Now, there's 3 different plans. We're releasing the different versions little by little. So the one that's available to beta testers right now, private beta testers, and soon public beta testers is the Excel formula command. But the pro version is going to have Python. So you can do, it's basically a py function, but the text within the py function it's the definition of the command itself. And you can do text substitution into these things. So you can incorporate things from your sheet, from your active selection, from your copied range, all kinds of really cool features. You can do Excel send keys. That's like the VBA send keys kind of principle. So if you want to just fire something like opening a menu item by sending that alt keystroke combo that you can never remember. We have a GPT command. This is actually going to get renamed by the public one to OpenAI Chat. There's Power Queries. You can turn Power Queries into robot commands.
Oh, I'm excited to see that one. No.
Yeah, this one's really, really powerful. And a very popular one will be turning VBA macros into commands. Think quick access toolbar on steroids. And then the enterprise plan is these are the building blocks that we use for our clients in consulting situations that allow us to create just about anything our clients can dream up. We can run .NET, that's C#, VB.NET, F# through this. You can use auto hotkey scripts. AHK is auto hotkey. It's a really great free automation software that allows us to integrate, basically control things outside of Excel. So we can jump to a website and enter things into a website. We can control third-party applications through their UI. There's all kinds of amazing stuff that you can do using AHK scripts. And the AIs are actually really good at writing AHK scripts because they've been around for a long time. So you could ask ChatGPT to write a script for you. DAX queries.
I'm just eyeing that one up. That would be.
Yeah, DAX queries. This one is amazing. We use this for our clients that have, we do semantic models in Fabric, and we have DAX queries. So you can basically define a DAX query. And in any spreadsheet, you just run a command and it taps into your Fabric semantic model and queries it and returns the result right to your sheet. And it can be parameterized where it asks you for inputs or uses the active cell. So you can do it very context sensitive. You can create Excel tables. So that's, your good old fashioned Excel tables, but this is where the data is coming from various different data sources. So there's, think it's kind of like Power Query, but no Power Query involved. Graph API allows you to automate all sorts of things in the Microsoft Azure environment. That's like scripting your, stuff in Fabric, integrating with, Exchange, Outlook, for creating calendar, items, anything that you can do practically through web APIs, web interfaces that Microsoft provides. Yeah. Their interface is all using the Graph API to communicate to their backend. And we have that, we've exposed that. REST APIs are super popular all over the place, and we're able to create commands that are either doing get or post commands to REST APIs and interacting returning back JSON and then being able to parse that and all kinds of crazy stuff. Sequence commands are commands that run other commands. So you can create a micro automation that's really a list of other micro automations. So you run one command and it runs a Power Query, and then it runs some VBA, and then it runs a Lambda. And to you, or the person who's running the command, they don't know that any of that even happened. They just get the benefit of it.
Yeah.
So, and then a switch command is kind of like our version of the case statement in VBA,
Yeah.
so that we can make decisions along the way and route you to different commands and that sort of thing. So that's a long answer, but the way we design this thing is completely extensible. Like, we are going to keep adding more and more cool things to this list, and it's just going to keep growing. And we can even create custom commands for proprietary systems. So if we have clients that have proprietary systems that they want to build their own set of commands around, we can create a command type around their proprietary system. It's really amazing, like, what this thing is capable of.
That's incredible. That is a hell of a list of just more than I could even imagine in my head before we started looking at that.
Yeah, we've been working on this for over 4 years. This is not something that we went on ChatGPT and said, "Write me a Flappy Bird app." I have very little fear that anybody is going to try to copy this for two reasons. It's incredibly difficult to do the stuff that we're doing,
Yeah.
and the team that I have working for me is amazing, brilliant people that put this together. I did not program this all myself. I'm definitely the one who's behind the thought of it and the design of it and all of that stuff. But I have really super talented people that write the code for this. So there's no way anybody's going to copy it. And on top of it, I'm basically giving it away for hardly anything, because I want as many people as possible to be able to take advantage of it.
How does OA Robot handle complex workflows and large data sets?
How does Excel handle complex workflows and large data sets? I mean, if you're
Excel
dealing
is
with
not
large
a
data
database.
sets,
Just let's reinforce that for the world. It's not a database. Stop making us make it into a database.
Excel is not a database. It can be used as a database in short bursts. But I think that one of the great things about Excel is its ability to load data into semantic models. So
Yeah.
Power Pivot is basically the same thing as SQL Server Analysis Server, and it's the same thing as what's in Power BI, and it's the same thing that's in Fabric. That engine of using the combination of Power Query and Power Pivot is the perfect combination of taking huge amounts of data and making them usable and queryable in different slice and dicing kind of ways. So OA Robot doesn't replace any of that. It capitalizes on it. So you create those sort of things, and then you turn them into reusable, curated commands that you can run at any time without having to go find the file, find the macro, find the definition of that M code. It's basically pre-curated into your robot. So whenever you want to, you just type in a few characters and boom, it's now inserted into your active workbook and applied in the context that you're trying to run it.
I would say what I'm getting from that answer is about as well as Excel handles complex workflows and large data sets.
That's right.
What are some of the most exciting commands or automations you've created?
The most exciting ones we have created are for our clients. So we do work for hedge funds. We do work for a lot of different, financial type companies, and we create really cool, almost like full reports with formatting and everything in Lambda form. So that's all proprietary, so I can't really show you that, but I'd love to show you some other things that I do. I'm actually a huge super fan of the FMWC, even though I'm dyslexic and can't read fast enough to get through the instructions to be competitive.
I'm right there with you.
Which kills me. But I definitely am a super fan, and I've created a lot of really fun and interesting little robot commands to help in competition. We can
Very
take a
good.
look at one of those. So this is Emil's case, and it has this great map. So I have lots of interesting robot commands to help me in situations like this because it's a real pain to deal with these sort of things. So the first command that I'm going to show you, and I'm doing Control Shift O to bring up robot, which brings up the command palette. And then there's a huge amount of things in my search box. The way that we search for things, I call hyper search. And what it is you type in the first letter of each word. There's different ways that you can search, but I say the command in my head, and then I type the letters as I say the words. So I'm going to type go to similar background color. So I typed GSBC, and what it filtered my command palette down to, it found go to similar background color. So this is a VBA command that I wrote. It's just a VBA macro.
Okay.
And what it does is takes the color that you're in, and then when you run this command, I'm just going to hit enter, and it's going to run the command. It's going to automatically select all of the cells that are that same color. So I'm going to put a P for path in all of those. And now similarly, I'm going to do the same thing on these orange ones. And I'm going to put an S in all of those. And then I'm going to come over here and do it again for the green ones. And I'm going to put a B for battle in those. I'm doing Control Enter so that it enters in the value in all of the selected cells. So just like that. Oh, and notice that when I bring up robot using Control Shift O, the most recent commands that you have run stay at the top. So if you want to rerun one, it makes it very easy to find one of the recent ones that you've run. You don't have to keep typing the search every time you want to run one.
That's great.
So that's kind of a fun feature. The other one that I really like is these icons are a pain to deal with. So I always like to get rid of icons and turn it into data.
Okay.
So for example, we have that cactus over there. So I'm over here at this legend, and I'm going to copy this cactus, the word cactus here, and I'm going to go on, I'll do it over here. I can do it anywhere on the sheet, but I'm going to go over here to this cactus, and I'm going to bring up robot again, and I'm going to do paste similar values is what I'm saying in my head. The command is paste values over similar values. So it's like paste special values,
Yeah.
but it says instead of pasting it over just this one cell, paste it over every cell in this entire sheet that has that same value in it. So when I hit enter, boom,
oh,
now we have cactuses everywhere.
That's fantastic because that means you don't have to deal with icons that could be 1 or 2 characters long and a pain.
You got it. You got it. So, and to make it even better, I can copy all 3 of these at once and come over here and run that again. And I just did all of those. So that means that I can come over here and do the same thing, run it again.
Do you need all of the icons selected, or does it just do that? Wow, it does that automatically.
I'll just show one more, which I think is a really fun one, which is it's follow with sequence. So follow with sequence fills cells with consecutive numbers as you move around with arrow keys. So watch what happens when I run that one. I'm moving my arrows, and it's numbering these.
The number of people that we watched sit there and manually type in all these numbers.
Even better, it works to do end. So end right, end down, end left, end down, end right. This one, I have to stop here.
Because there's something just above it, yeah.
End up, end right. And then to turn it off, you just click off the cell. And if I want to, I could auto fit these so that you could read everything better. Those are some fun, like basically you invent like your own ideas of what you want to do. and then you build your own collections of cool things that you can add to your arsenal to do. I'm very intentionally not just handing these out to people. So even the people who have that are in the private beta group, I'm not giving them these commands. I want people to be in charge of their own commands.
Yeah.
It's really important that the commands that you use are ones that you created and you're super familiar with. Because honestly, if you were to take all of my commands, it would slow you down, not speed you up, because you wouldn't be super familiar with my commands. So I want people to kind of use their, turn their lambdas into commands, turn little VBA macros. You do not have to be a VBA expert. You can ask ChatGPT to write some of these things, and it'll do most of it for you. There's lots of things that you can do with this.
I absolutely love that last one. Just it's mind blowing because you've seen some. We've watched literally a week and a half ago some of the greatest Excel minds in the world sitting and typing the same.
So true.
And you're just going, there you go. Job done.
Yeah.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. And yet still I wasn't fast enough to qualify. So so it goes to show you, like, I really believe that robot will help people perform better, but it's not going to make people that are not already good at this
suddenly
able to
amazing.
beat people who are good at it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, there's so much skill involved in the gameplay and making right decisions of what you do. So often I will use my robot commands to solve a problem, and I'll think, oh man, I did that so fast. Like, this is amazing. And then I'll watch one of Dim's videos, and he just solved the problem. Like, he never even, he typed it in the green cell, and he did it in a way that I just never would have thought of.
Yeah.
And it was super simple, and it took like no time at all. I'm like, oh. So the people who know their tool and are super creative and amazing problem solvers, and don't just get like flabbergasted under pressure like I do,
Yeah.
it'll be really cool to see what they're capable of doing.
Have there been any uses or commands that have surprised you from your beta testers?
The beta testers have just recently got their hands on it.
Yep.
So people are creating commands off of their Lambda collections, their own Lambda collections. There have been some beta testers that have been using it for a very long time. Early on, when we put this out there, I thought that I was close to being ready, and I very quickly realized when I put it in people's hands that I had a huge amount of work left to do. One of our early beta testers is Professor David Brown. He had this amazing idea, which I did help him with a little bit. It's basically grid details. I have to figure out what it's actually called here, but I'm going to take this range here that's basically our map, and grid map details. We have two, a extended version and a standard version. But what it does is it analyzes this set of cells and creates a table off to the right with a bunch of information about those cells. So I'm going to run that now. What it did is it created a table. You'll notice that these are the cell addresses. We have the
That's
letters,
every
the
possible
rows,
combination of lookup format.
the complex looks, the R1C1 format, the letters. It shows the values, the formats of the values, so that you can see them by formats. The type of value that's in there, whether it's an integer or text or whatever, the interior color, the color index, the RGB color, the font size, the font color, the text length, the text, the tint and shade, whether it has borders on the left, the top, or whatever. And then it's all put into a list object so that you can refer to it in your additional formulas downstream. The standard version is very similar. Generate grid map details, standard version. Here's the new one. It's basically a shorter, less column version. So it's a simpler one.
So it's got your lookup information, your values, your format, so you can filter by format, type,
Yeah.
and then some color indexes on the interior and the font.
Okay, so I just switched over to the Ship the World case by Benny Weber. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this map. It's a nice clean map to work with. And then I'm going to come over here and do a paste count of background color. So that's, you can see the name of it there, and it says pastes the count of cells in copied range by background color. When I run that, I can do AF for auto fit column width. And it just grabbed all of those colors and counted up how many of each different colors in there.
Earlier you mentioned various plan levels. What's the difference between these plans?
Let me open up a new workbook here and bring up robot again. Do the plus plus that gets to where we can add different command types, and we can walk through these really quick. It's really fine print, so you probably can't see it, but this first section is standard license items. This section is pro, and the section at the bottom is enterprise. It's really important to me that as many people as possible are able to use OA Robot. So the standard plan is free, and it's not the sort of free where like it's free for a little while and then you are forced to upgrade because it's so neutered that you can't do anything. This is a version that you can use if all you care about is formula. Writing formula commands, you can use this. It's well featured.
It's worth kind of mentioning as well that I've noticed in the beta testing that also then incorporates some Lambda functionality because the formula kind of expands into the Lambda world. You then start integrating a lot more functionality in there than just thinking of basic formulae.
Yes, that's very much true. The Pro license adds a certain amount of different types of commands that you can create. And we're pricing it at $100 per year. So you can use it up to 3 machines. Anything that you create with your Pro version, anybody with the free version, standard version, can execute those. So basically, if you work on a team and you're creating commands, you can pay $100 a year and be the author of the commands, and then you can share those with your team. They don't have to pay anything, and they can run those commands. So,
like that. So you could have the Pro license for a core group of developers.
That's right. The way that it works is the enterprise plan currently is what we use in our consulting engagements with our clients. So eventually the enterprise features will be available once we have enough material to support all of the cool features that are in there. We'll make that functionality available. But these are really geared towards the businesses, and it's frankly the only way we'll ever recoup our investment in this. So it's still very reasonably priced at only $100 per user per month.
Okay.
And the catch is that in order to run enterprise commands, you have to have an enterprise license. So if it's for a business, I think it's reasonable for the amount of functionality that we're providing for those people to have that. There are a couple exceptions. The sequence command and the switch command are you can author them using the enterprise version, but they are available to be used by standard and pro. If you are somebody who wants robot commands developed custom for you, we have an awesome team of robot engineers on staff that can help write commands for your team. And once you are, have the enterprise license working with us, you will also have the ability to create enterprise commands yourself, and we'll basically be available to support you in that, in kind of a typical time and materials consulting manner. Down the road, what we're planning on doing is creating enough coursework so that we can train and certify people to be robot engineers, and then it's very likely that we're going to have way more work than we can ever do, and we want to build a network of people who are experts at creating robot commands and be able to be a revenue stream for independent people that want to create robot commands for their clients, or people that we refer to you.
Tell me, what features can we look forward to in the future?
Obviously, you just saw that there's a huge pipeline of functionality that's coming down the road that we'll be releasing to users little by little as we're ramp up the user base. But outside of that, those are the features of OA Robot. The other side of things is what we call these command collections. They're collections of commands that are very easily shareable. And what we're going to do with those, and we've already done with some of the command collections, is we're making them open sourced. So they're going to be GitHub projects that we make available, so you can see the code, you can understand what it's doing. If you wanted to fork it and make it your own, you could. If you want to be inspired by how we did it, you can understand and learn from how we did things. Those we're going to be releasing one by one. So when we say the robots are coming, they really are. And there's a way more than you can possibly imagine. We have robots coming that will be able to have you like very quickly and easily merge data from Excel into Word, PowerPoint, generate emails, calendar items. Even basically you can create emails with Excel ranges converted into tables and charts and attachments and like all kinds of really cool stuff. We use this for our clients right now to be super efficient at creating solutions for them. And so little by little, you'll be seeing those be released. And what I'm expecting is that content creators like yourself and others will learn how to use this stuff and create videos and show the world like all of the cool stuff that's possible. And then we also really hope that what's coming in the future is the creations of the users.
Yes.
We really hope that the people in the actuarial profession put together like command collections that support actuarial work. We hope that like the chemical engineers turn all of their their chemistry formulas into lambdas and become create collections that are very niche about their little world. A sponsor of the FMWC is that Eve Online. I've never played it. I don't really, have a lot of time for playing video games, but there's a whole following of Excel people. And how cool would it be for those people to have a bunch of robot commands that are totally geared towards being as fast as possible, doing stuff using that Eve API that was shown in the finals. So it's going to be like the future is very bright for this in terms of like what people are going to create and what's going to show up. And that's like what I'm most excited about.
I have noticed among the beta testers, we've got a WhatsApp group obviously going. We've got the beta testers together on the Discord, and looking at our existing Lambda libraries and working with one another to kind of build collections,
collaboration,
and effectively get rid of those existing lambdas that we have and build them using OA Robot into a command collection that we can easily access without doing the whole palaver of picking up all your lambdas, copying them over into the new spreadsheet every time you start a competition.
Yeah, you don't have to copy any lambdas anywhere anymore. They just show up when they need to show up. It's
Thank you.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And the cool thing is that if you have a collection of lambdas and you add formula and you add commands, those are the definitions of those commands are embedded in that file. So basically, you can email that file to people, share that file with people. If they don't have OA Robot, they'll never know the difference. They don't see it. It doesn't, the file works just as normal. It's totally normal. If they have Robot and you have that file open, all of a sudden, a bunch of cool new commands pop into your command palette,
I love
and
that.
now you have new commands just by getting a workbook emailed to you. Like, that's how easy it is to share these. And then if you register it, if you add it to the command collections that OA Robot's aware of, then you don't even have to have the file open. It reads it while it's closed super duper fast and preloads every time you open Excel. It loads up, scans all of your different command collections. I have like, a dozen of them, and loads all of those commands in there. So the only time that a file gets opened is if it really needs it, because you're actually running a command. It maybe has a
Yeah.
VBA macro. You can't run a VBA without opening a file. It knows
That
where that
was
file
one
is
of the
located.
questions I was thinking of asking you was, you've obviously got some commands that are running VBA macros. One of the issues we have with our lambdas is that using cell to get color for that exact example you just showed, we need to have a lambda workbook that's saved as an XLSM or XLSB file.
Mm-hmm.
This saves me having to do that because presumably if it's something that's running a macro, or in this case we don't actually need the macro because you've got the get cell color, if it's running that macro in the background, you don't need a macro driven workbook that's currently open to do that.
The macro has to be in a macro enabled workbook somewhere where
So your
you've
command
defined
collection
your
can be macro
command.
enabled.
It doesn't have to be in the same workbook that you're operating on. So it's, if you write, as long as you write your macros so that they're interacting with the active workbook, not anything specific to that macro workbook, you can, create commands like that. The key element is that in the past, we've probably all experienced this over the years. There used to be tons of VBA add-ins available to do different things. And what would happen is you'd have to add them all in to your Excel, and then you would basically have like 5 or 6 XLAs running in your Excel. And if anything weird happened in your Excel, you're like, I have no idea which one of these is causing the problem. I'm just going to get rid of them all.
Yeah.
So you end up with like all this cool functionality that you never use because you don't have the add-in open, because you don't want it all loaded all at once.
Yeah.
What's great about Robot is it knows where those add-ins live or where your macros live, but you don't have to have them open. When you open Excel with Robot installed, there are no XLAs open at all. No VBA is around. When you run a command that depends on that VBA, it knows where that VBA file is, and it opens it on demand when you run the command so that it can execute that VBA when you run your command. So that's kind of how that works.
That's fantastic. Everyone that's ever tried this is like super excited and enthused about it. Everyone that's ever seen OA Robot is very enthused about it, but I do happen to mix with a somewhat niche Excel loving crowd. So what would you say to someone who's on the fence about trying OA Robot?
I think that the people who are currently excited about OA Robot are the right people, because they're the people who understand Excel really well, understand formulas, possibly macros, other things, and they're going to be able to create creations with this, create commands and build their own collections and create things that other people might be interested in using as well. The thing that is going to make this easy for those people that are on the fence is once we start releasing more of our command collections, and we're going to do that in a way that is so extremely easy for them to get started, that it'll be like a no-brainer. you're going to watch a YouTube short or a TikTok or an Instagram short that is displaying one command, and maybe that's the only command that you ever care about. You don't care that it's VBA or that it's Power Query or what it is. You're like, I really want to turn a URL in a cell into a QR code for what I do at work.
Yeah.
And I just saw this little TikTok, and it's going to have a little 6-digit alphanumeric code that once you install Robot, you can enter in that code. It'll download automatically the command collection that includes that, and it'll put that command that you saw the YouTube video, the YouTube short on, right at the top of your list, so that if that's the only thing that that person ever uses Robot for, that's totally fine. They're using it for free, and now they can create QR codes off of their column of URLs. That would be totally fine with me. That's like a big thing that we've been working on, is to really reduce friction of people that don't know anything about Excel. They can't write a formula to save their life, but they were on TikTok and they saw Jack show off creating a QR code off of a URL in a cell. That's a perfect example.
Yeah, I love that. I'm now gonna have to go make a TikTok about making a QR code. One as a backup question to that, a follow-on question to that, the codes that you give to be able to load in a command collection, those are uniquely provided by Oehm Automation.
That's right.
Whereas a command collection that I as a user create would be sent as a spreadsheet for someone else to then access.
Yes. The what's most likely going to happen is people are going to create command collections, and then they are going to put them on GitHub, where then they can be publicly available for people to access. And we have in Robot, you can create what's called a GitHub syncable command collection. So you point it at that URL. You just go into GitHub and you like copy the URL off the top and you plug it in. And then from that day forward, your OA robot is linked to that GitHub file.
Okay,
and
yeah.
And if there's an update and you want to download it, you can. It doesn't happen automatically. You can right click on that command collection and say, get me the latest.
Yeah.
And then you'll have the updates. The other thing that I didn't really touch on is, and this is like huge, is that everything in Robot is metadata driven. So the properties of the commands, all of it is metadata driven. We've created a automatic help generation system. Oh. So basically, this thing writes its own documentation.
My mind.
Yeah, it writes its own documentation.
This is something that everyone needs to see. I'm just switching over now. There we go.
Essentially, you can go into a command collection and have it and hit F1 on the command collection. And it takes the metadata of the definitions of all of the commands that are in that collection. So this is an example. This is my Array Robot Volume 1, which is one that I am giving out to people. And it generated this documentation based on the metadata, the definitions of what's in there. So this particular collection has 112 robot commands, 4 parameters, 1 connection, robot connection, 29 texts, and 3 robot images. I'm not going to go into what all these other things are, but they're organized by tags. They have your descriptions of what they are. If we wanted to go in and see what that count unique values in array does, now it takes you down there. Here's count unique values of array. It's an Excel formula command. It has these different tags for organization, has documentation, a link to some documentation that we could look at. And this is the definition of it. It's a lambda, so it has a lambda dependency. We could click on this link and see the actual definition of the lambda. So if we click on this, you can see here's the definition of the lambda. You can actually see it in its raw form here. If something was a VBA it'll link you right into the VBA. So you can see the VBA right in this. And all of this is automatically generated.
Yeah.
So when you create your own command collection, as long as you curate it nicely, you put in the names and descriptions and you do things nicely, you can hit F1 on your own collection and it'll generate this documentation automatically for you.
I think this just blew my mind when I saw it.
Yeah.
I have definitely used it to kind of like break open array robot, lambda robot, and formula robot so that I can see what commands I have to work with.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier than kind of just sitting in array robot and scrolling through until you want to try something else out. I've extracted all of this data, put it into a spreadsheet, and I'm starting to kind of like dig through that to get through all the commands.
And even better, all of this that you see right here is all exported into markdown files that you can upload with your Excel file into your GitHub repository. So this documentation, exactly like you experienced it right here, will be right in GitHub, and it'll be like your command collection is documented right in the GitHub. So before anybody even has to download it or try it out, or open up some Excel file that they're not sure if they're even interested in, they can view your documentation that was automatically generated based on your curation of your collections. And that's why we really spent a lot of time to try to make this so that creators of command collections can create something with very little effort that other people can benefit from.
I
We really
absolutely
want
love this. The amount of time I have spent documenting everything
yeah,
because that's the only way to produce something that's usable going forward is to have thorough documentation. And you've taken it and made it just part of my step is just to make sure I've got a few metadata details in there, and then it's all there waiting.
yeah. And your documentation can even have animated GIFs in it of your command in action. You can do full markdown documentation with links to YouTube videos. You can make your documentation almost like a blog itself, and have that be
Oh,
part
this is going
of
to be fun.
your, yeah,
This is going to be so much fun.
yeah.
I've never used the word documentation and fun in the same sentence.
So true. So true.
Okay, finally, Eric, we're closing out now. Where can our viewers go to find out more and to keep up to date with release?
The main place you want to go is oarobot.com. That's our website for the tool. If you get there and there's, if you
Other
get
way.
there,
Yeah.
if you get there, if you get there and there's a beautiful star stream coming at you with a robot, that means that we're still in beta phase. We'll be releasing parts of the website as we get closer to a full public release. But that's where you can go to sign up for our waiting list. We're adding people little by little so that
Is
we
that
can
under
handle
follow the white robot link?
follow the white robot. So when you do that, you'll sign up for the waiting list. There's a checkbox that you can choose on whether you're willing to help beta test. As you can tell, this is a hugely complex system, and we want to make sure it's solid for people. So we're very intentionally being slow about bringing people on. We're bringing people on that are willing to help us, get the kinks out, and we'll keep adding more people as we're able to scale. We are there's a lot of people already in the queue to be beta testers. You will hear from us, and we will add you. But just be patient and you'll be hearing from us. If you go to that website and you see it something besides the star field, then it's time to go and hit that download link.
Excellent.
That's pretty much how it works. So we're very excited to see what people end up doing with OA Robot.
Okay. And your socials are?
I would highly recommend you follow me on LinkedIn because that's where that's my main form of social media. You can also follow me on X or Twitter. Um, and on YouTube, I only have one YouTube video that my son called extremely cringy. But that will be a place where we start to put more videos over time,
Yeah.
and it'll be a source of information as well. So I would say for now, YouTube, um, Twitter or X, and LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric, and thank you all for watching. These links that Eric's mentioned are in the description below. Please follow to see upcoming videos on what's included in this free standard release and examples of how to build Lambdas. And we should be including some special guest appearances over the next month or so.
Cool.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Jack, for inviting me to do this and helping get the word out about a robot. I really appreciate you.
Great. Thanks, Eric.